Hi, I'm David Gregg. I'm the Commodore of the Bennet Yacht Club. This is a series of videos intended to show that anybody can build a Bennet boat. There are as many ways to build Bennet boats as there are builders. This is just a way that works for me. Everybody who starts out to build a boat has a picture in their mind of the finished product, sailing across the harbor. Every step I'm going to show you in the design phase is intended to elicit that vision from the person we're building the boat with. To design a boat, we ask a series of questions. Each question focuses on an important area of the boat. The shape of the bow, the shape of the stern, the length, the shear, the shape of the keel. So we start off by asking about the length. Have a kid hold their hands up. How big is this boat? This big. And then you measure, or this big, and you measure, and that's how you get the length. We'll worry about the rig later, but we're going to look at the bow, the keel, rudder and transom, and maybe the shear line. So we isolate the bow first, and you ask your novice boat designer, what kind of bow does their boat have? Maybe it's a traditional bow like this, a spoon bow, or maybe it's a clipper bow like this. Or maybe it's got a plumb stem like this. Or maybe it's even exotic and it has a bow that goes forward. Next we can talk about the stern or transom. Sterns could have a traditional look like this. Or they could have a racy, modern look with a reverse transom like that. Or maybe they're more rounded like this. One of the things you have to figure out when you're designing a boat is what does the hull look like in cross-section. Here's a boat that has a flat bottom. Here's a boat that's got a triangular shape. And this boat is rounded. The shear is an important part of the look of a boat. Traditional boats have a nice pretty curve like this that goes from the bow to the stern. It might also have a racy shear, a reverse shear like this. And don't forget that a shear might have a couple of different parts. It might have a curve like this at the bow and like this at the stern. You need to take three things into account when you're designing your keel. First, the keel has to be wide enough to resist the sideways push of the wind and to make the boat go forward. It has to be deep enough to hold a lead ballast to keep the boat upright. And it has to have a sloped front to stop seaweed from getting hung up. If this is your boat, you can ask your junior designer whether you want a deep keel like this, or you can ask whether you want a long, shallow keel like this. This is a more racy look, and this is a more traditional look. The longitudinal length of the keel is also an important factor. It keeps the boat running straight, and in free sailing models that's important. The more sail you have, the more force the keel is going to have to provide to keep the boat upright. You can provide that force either by adding weight to the keel or making the keel longer. A longer lever provides more force. A narrow, deep keel would get the weight very low and provide lots of riding moment, but it wouldn't provide much directional stability. Whichever keel you decide on, it needs to be sloped in the front so seaweed will flow off it. You can't have a keel that goes straight down like this, or that has a ballast at the bottom that goes forward of the keel. To understand the design of a boat, let's look at this paper model that I've created here. This is the keel with the rudder, and this is called the center of lateral resistance. It's the center of the keel and rudder together. This is the sail plan, and this is the center of effort. That's the center of the whole sail plan. You'd think the boat would be best if they were balanced, right one over the other, but a boat like that would blow sideways through the water. A boat that's sailing is essentially falling forwards all the time. To get that, you need the center of effort of the sail to be forward of the center of lateral resistance, like this. One of the things you have to figure out when you're designing a boat is where the rudder goes. There are a bunch of possibilities. One is a stern-hung rudder, either with or without a skeg. Another is a spade rudder. And another is a keel-hung rudder. If you have a stern-hung rudder, the skeg is important for strengthening it. A spade rudder gives you a lot of rudder authority, but it's vulnerable to bending and breaking. I like a keel-hung rudder because it's the sturdiest, and it has a traditional look. So our young boat designer has picked out all the elements for his or her new boat. This boat's going to have a clipper bow, a traditional sheer, but a contemporary reverse transom. It's probably got a little bit of rocker in the bottom. And for a keel, let's compromise between a deep modern keel, and a long traditional keel. There it is. That's the vision for our new boat.